if you see a bottle of wine that says Barolo 2016 and is certified DOGC, you've won. All right, guys, a special wine show for you today. We're gonna be talking about Barolo. We're from the coffee house. It's not a short. We're gonna do a long form video talking about the king of Italian wines, Barolo, why it's called that, what you need to know, and how's it differ from Barbaresco, and the grape behind the famed and very, very hot wine in the wine world, Barolo. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna get into it pretty quick here. So Barolo comes from the famous Nebbiolo grape, which only grows in an area of the Piedmont, which is just south of Turin for all the Juventus fans, right? And north of Genoa. And it's one of the most fickle grapes in the world. They can't really grow this grape in France or other wine producing areas of the world. It needs a very consistent altitude. It needs these fogs that come in off the Mediterranean Sea. The mountains, how they shape kind of a bowl for that fog to go in. Long story short, and the soils combined for this Nebbiolo grape, the only place that it really has taken hold is this small area in the Piemonte region of Italy, which is a good northern Italy, think between Genoa and Turin. Now, in that region, there are two sub-regions, one called Barolo and the other called Barbaresco. They're both made from the famous Nebbiolo grape. So here's what these wines are and how they are different from each other and why they're both so sought after. This part of Italy, very traditional in their winemaking. Barolo, it has to be aged, I believe, for 36 months, or I think maybe at least 30 months. And Barbaresco needs to be aged for, I believe, 24 months. Again, same grape. The hills in Barbaresco are a little bit different. The soil compound is a little bit different. Those wines are a little bit lighter, but they're great age-worthy wines. And I'll tell you what makes it wine age-worthy in just a second. Barolo, of course, to the west of Barbaresco, very, very close, just separated by a river. Very, very small area. So there's not like the production of Barolo can't really grow up, can't go up much because it's fairly well planted in this region, right? Unless they expand the region, which I don't think they will. Long story short, this is aged in oak for a long time. Most wines simply are not age-worthy wines. There's some age-worthy whites, some age-worthy reds. Many people know the Bordeaux's and Cabernets of Napa Valley. Barolo might be the king of age-worthy wines, and that's, I think, one of the reasons they call this the king of Italian wine, because its flavor and complexity will change over time. You could age this one from a very, very good vintage in 2016, probably another 20 years. What, 2022 here, almost 2023? Merry Christmas, by the way. You could hold this one into the 2030s, and that's really prime time for this one. I drank this too early. And you know what? It is a different wine review for me, right? This bottle of wine was for $40 bottle of wine. As some of you know, we lost our family dog, Lucy, a red lab. And I said, well, I'm gonna have the best bottle of wine I have, and it's a 2016 Barolo. It's probably a little early to drink this, but it's still really good. All right, so what's the flavor characteristics of wine? Again, it doesn't have to be, this is Ascheri. It could be virtually any label from 2016. It was one of the great vintages. If you're looking for wine and have the time, you don't really need that much time. All you need is a little wine app that tells you the vintages, the good vintages, and just pair that up with the wine you buy at the stores. In 1 second, just referencing a wine vintage chart can really help you find really good wines that will age even longer. Of course, this one, like I said, you could get another 15, 20 years out of this wine. Barolo wines age so well. What makes Barolo wine special? Well, some people might not like this, but this is what makes Barolo wines truly great and truly so much in demand, right? There's two flavor profiles, two distinctly flavor profiles to this wine or any Barolo, virtually in any vintage, right? Any good Barolo. It's gonna have like a really acidic, juicy, cherries, red fruit kind of start to it. Nice acidity. And then it morphs into the tannins, the leathery, sort of like even that kind of clay pots or that earth that they call the tenor. So it's one of the only wines that actually shows two distinctive sides, kind of midway through. It shows the fruit, it shows the juice, the berries, right? And then it switches to show the earthy taste, which is almost unheard of in a cheap bottle of wine. If you get a good bottle of wine from Napa or Bordeaux, you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about. Again, this is not the type of wine I drink very few times, so we go over $12.99. But it had those very, very distinct flavors. This one is very, very juicy. And like I said, it had that uncharacteristic kind of, like smoky finish to it, and a long, long finish, right? And if you would age this wine, that finish would become softer. You'd have more like dried rose petals and those type of flavors, softer tannins in it, and it would have a really long finish, right? That's what aging the wine would do, would just draw out those flavors a little bit more. So that's a Barolo. That is why Barbaresco as well will have those two distinct characteristics, particularly Barolo, which they call the tenor, which is you're tasting almost the earth, tasting the environment that this comes from. It's very unique in the wine world to find a wine like this. I just drank a good Malbec. It was like a $12 bottle of Malbec, rated very high. Had that initial hit of juice, and then it just kind of faded away. This one, midway through, you get the juice, it fades, and then it goes into those earthy notes, and it's just really special wine. That's why Barolos are quite special and quite high in price and sought after, right? So anyway, if you have the means, 2016 Barolo, I encourage you to do so. If you like wine or just like to dabble in wines, watch some of my videos with cheaper wines. If you want to splurge this Christmas season, go after a good vintage Barolo. I think you'll thank me. And guys, take care, God bless, and have a great Christmas.